Hi guys, hope you're well. Today is a little bit different. So it is still the Growth Strategy podcast and live stream. But what I was very keen to do, and actually it was an idea I had about 2 months ago, which I reached out to Peter, was that when I first kind of set up on my own, you have a lot of coffees with different people and you put yourself out there and meet a lot of different kind of faces and learn about their journey and that kind of thing. And basically me and Peter really kind of hit it off. And then when we both almost got to a year on from when we kind of first started, very fresh faced and stuff. And for the edit, I'll put a nice photo here from when we kind of first met. I thought it'd be really interesting to kind of do a warts and all recap on the year. I've got some questions to kind of go through. It's a slightly different format because it's not an interview, but genuinely, I'll tell the truth about everything, how I found it this year, just different experiences, what worked, what didn't work, that kind of thing. So if you're interested in watching, this will be a genuine kind of recap on 2020, I guess, for myself and Peter. And just because I'm going to bring you in, boop, there we go. See, I've got some new toys. I can do it all wirelessly now. And the other thing which I forgot to say was that we also met in Costa. So whilst we couldn't meet in person this time in Costa and do it kind of live remotely, I did a coffee run, and that's why I'm running a tiny bit late now. But anyway, we're good. So Peter, you're now live to everyone. Would you like to just give everyone a quick recap introduction about yourself?
Yeah, so my name's Peter Mckeone. I run Diablo Seasonings, which is a Middlesbrough-based spices business. So it's my first year in business, so we just ticked over a year, and it's been quite a journey, obviously, for everyone. So I think it's going to be interesting to have a discussion.
No, cool. So I must do it. So just for transparency on everyone else, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 10 different questions. And the idea is that it's just to help flavor conversation, just because, when you're actually live talking to someone, you kind of lose thoughts sometimes. So I thought it might kind of help.
We tend to go off on a tangent, don't we, really, Steve? And we'll end up talking about like the best food.
Tiger King.
Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's probably good to have a structure for me and you.
No, cool. So just as some background, because I think it really helps to set the scene. So we first met quite a few years ago. You working for a different engineering company. We kind of see each other around on the circuit, but we didn't necessarily have huge kind of interaction. I set up on my own at the same time you did, exactly the same time. I largely have a consulting business, but I'm going to change that soon, which will be 2021 coming soon.
Okay.
And you again, you have a spice merchant, but you sell a physical product. So it's inherently a different business. And ironically, when I was driving towards Costa, I was thinking through the interview, and actually, I'll be honest, I think selling a physical product, what you do, is a lot harder than what I do. I think it's a harder business to do. So it's the analogy of anyone that sells a physical product with stock, etc. It's almost playing a computer game at a harder difficulty level. But I appreciate that. And that's almost, if you can still make that work, you're really kind of flying. So that's cool. So how's the year been for you? How have you found it, like, overall?
I'm feeling battle hardened. It's been a roller coaster, without a doubt. There's been some really extreme highs and there's been some lows along the way as well. So, and I know that'd always be the case with any business that you start. I just think those highs and lows have been more extreme because of the situation we've all found ourselves in as a country this year, as a world this year.
I've got you. For me, same question. It's been a funny one because it's not that I'm not pessimistic. I just judge it. I know what not to expect, or not to expect that it's going to be rosy. So actually for me, a lot of it was interesting. That likewise, we'll go on to a second, almost how I found it. My first half of the year was very different to my second half.
I agree.
My first half from probably, I kind of went public on the 20th of October when I said I was going to do my own thing. And for me, that was a big emotional jump to almost tell people I'm not taking a job anymore. I'm going to try. And that's a big step for me. I find it's not the pride side to it, but that was a big jump for me to really kind of do that.
It's like jumping from a plane and then trying to make a parachute on the way down. You know what I mean?
And being worried that other people are going to look at you going, what the hell's he doing?
Yeah, exactly.
That's true. So, but although I had my first few clients already kind of lined up and it was going well, so, moderately, someone told me a long time ago that almost you'll probably get your first client straight away. You'll get your second, but then there'll be a dip. Then it'll pick up again, and then you'll be good. And that first period probably for me was 6 months or so. So I was making money. Then it dropped off a bit, but then actually my hard work on the business development and sales, and we'll talk about Gary Vee and the stuff that we do to drive our own businesses later. But I think then the activity really started to pay off. And in the second half of the year, it was completely different to the first. It's very cash generative and going well, which I'm not going to complain about. And then what's quite interesting going into 2021 for me, so my second year, is when I get to launch. It was part of the business I always planned to do, but I've now got the cash to invest to do it properly. Is the whole business training course side, but it's a physical product. But I couldn't have done that from day one because I didn't have the cash to properly go into it and push it. So it was just, I think, almost trying to share the learning that even in your first year of business, the two halves were different for me.
Very much so. Like it's kind of like the first half of the year for me, especially even the first quarter of the year, like it was all based on the online sales. So I was writing the blog through Facebook and through Instagram and through stories and through Twitter and LinkedIn and Snapchat stories and pinning stuff to Pinterest and trying to really diversify that content. Like sometimes it'd be a video of me cooking, sometimes it'd be a recording of me running through what issues I was dealing with at that moment, and a lot of the time it was like pictures of a meal that I'd made. And just what I find is the online sales are directly linked to the content that we share. So I was just trying to put as much content out as possible, which leads to online sales, and then obviously managing that and sending stuff out via couriers or hand delivering it locally and stuff like that. After that first few months, we started doing like markets, indoor markets like the Dundas Arcade, or like outdoor markets like Redcar High Street, Stockton High Street, farmers markets, places like Sedgefield and Wynyard. I mean, the thing with Stockton Market, it's quite an historical place. The first market in Stockton was in the year 1310. So for me to be there 700 years later in old school merchant mode, just selling a physical product, I feel privileged to do that, man. It's something complete. I wouldn't have seen this coming 5 years ago, but I love it, And then after the online sales and the market, when we started getting a bit of recognition, especially from the Morocco video that we made, we started getting a few commercial sales, things like retailers and restaurants and cafes and just businesses who wanted a part of it. So that's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, I was very interested again the difference between retail sales to customers, individuals.
Yeah.
And then the commercial side to it, because again, I imagine they're probably different business models.
Without a doubt, like obviously with the selling directly to customers, somebody might come up to me at the Sedgefield Farmers Market and say, all right, I'll have a biryani seasoning. What do I do with that? So I have to be like, right, so there's 20 steps to making that. So I'll blast through them. And then they're like, right, so what do I do with this cinnamon? And I'm like, so many different ways. So what I find is that every person who comes up to me at a market, they're all unique, so I have to like kind of tailor my approach to them. Mm-hmm. So like somebody might come over who's a chef and they say, I know exactly what I'm doing. I'll have this, and this, and I'm like, no bother. They know the score. So, but like I'll always say to people, look, drop me a message through the Facebook page, tell me what you bought, and I'll just blast over loads of recipes to you so that you can get the best out of them. But then on the commercial side, I worked in business development, as you know, for a lot of years. So I mean, I think I'm equally at home having a conversation with a man on the street in Stockton who's going to go home and knock a curry up, as I am chatting to a business owner and sitting in. It's been mainly Zoom meetings this year, but on the odd occasion that we have had a meeting, like being able to sit and just chat about business and how things are going. But I try and bring value to them. So I'll say, are you posting much on LinkedIn? And they'll say, oh, no. And I'll say, well, you need to be because the organic reach is outrageous. And if you're posting stuff on Facebook and Instagram, why don't you document your journey on LinkedIn as well? And you might get an extra 10,000 eyes on it a month. So business owners are kind of resonating with what I'm saying is resonating with them as well. So I'm just trying to mix it up as much as I can, really, take advantage of every opportunity.
But you know what's interesting about that is almost, and it's a good tip for anyone that sells anything, but you're adding value. So you're not just selling the physical thing because they could buy it anywhere. It's what you bring to it, and the passion and the story has value. So for anyone almost setting up their own thing, it's not just about the product, the coffee or whatever. It's the whole...
You can create an emotional link to the branding. So like, for example, I don't know about you, but every time I ring a big company, like, I'll name and shame NatWest, absolute nightmare. Every time I ring them, right, I'll be on hold for a while. Fair enough, you can't avoid that. But some of the customer service I've had this year, man, shocking. And I think like when it's my company, literally, like if somebody says to me, Peter, have you got a recipe for piri piri? I'm not just sending them one recipe. I'm sending them like a Pinterest board with 10,000 recipes on. I'll strive to be like literally the most friendly, helpful, memorable, like customer service agent that I am as possible. So I think like you can, if you do that, if you're building your own business and you are like literally the epitome of good customer service, you go that extra mile, then it's going to resonate with people. And yeah, they might be able to buy a similar product in the shop, but they think, why would I buy it from a nameless, faceless corporation when I can support a local business and I can actually message them and go, what can I do with this?
No, I've got you. I like it. Out of interest, have you got a new webcam?
I was using my laptop last time. I've just step by step, a bit like what you're doing. Like I pay myself pennies, man. Like any profit we make goes straight back into the business, improving on the product, improving on the inventory, and just pretty much trying to step forward every single day. You know what I mean?
No, I respect that. Because I'll jump into me. We'll just go you, me, because again, this is what we're trying to do is just add value.
Yeah, man. I'm really interested to see how it's gone, man.
But what's interesting, so just in terms of, because it applies to brand, which is, kind of making the conversation flow, was that so I try and be very good at what I do, and I always have been since I was a kid. I always put my heart and soul into everything. And when I was again try and plan everything, because realistically, if you sell spices or consultancy or whatever, it's the consistency of brand all the way through, that you can have things such as your bad customer service with NatWest on the phone. So that was the whole thing. So for myself, I was doing my thing, doing my sales approaches at the start of the year. And when lockdown happened, everyone went online, they went on Zoom, and the whole world kind of changed. And I think at that point, something just clicked in my head to actually say, well, actually, live streaming is a way to go one to many. I'm going to learn how to do it. Because I already had the camera equipment. Yeah. I did have the lights because I used to do video, but just like, offline. I don't know what even that's called anymore. Just offline kind of video. And I was doing it from a spare bedroom and it started fine. But then if you watch YouTube much, all the cool kids have colored background lights. So I thought, you know what, I'm gonna get some of those. So I bought these.
Good man.
Well, they were called bowling RGB, whatever, 130 quid each. But you can make them any color you want. And because one of my brand differentiators is personality and life and color and whatever, I thought, well, actually, there's a nice brand tie-in. But then I wasn't quite happy that I didn't have enough color, so I bought a second one. But anyway, fast forward. But what I wanted to do in terms of promotion and stuff was find my feet from home, because everyone was. It was in my spare bedroom, which is an office. Yeah. And just, that's how I did my first 30 interviews, just to kind of find my feet, find out streaming, find out bit rates, find out audio, discover the problems, see what goes wrong, and just learn and learn and learn. And I always had the dream at one point to up my game, to present and talk in a more professional setup. And then this is now my third live stream in this setup. Same camera, same lights, nicer office, better broadband connection. Yeah. But actually, it's, as you said, it was just trying to make progress every day. And then touch some wood when we do this again next year, because I think we should do it every year. I love my current hosts and they're lovely people, but I might move on again. Just, I've got ambitions in my head of what I want to achieve. Yeah. And it's that gradual thing that through trying to put the effort in with this, hopefully reflects when people see it, that actually I'll put the same effort into when I work with other businesses or the business training course or whatever. And I think it's important to keep the level high if that's important to you. Cool. So we've done the first question. Did the year go as you expected?
Definitely not, man. Like, in terms of I knew it was going to be hard work, and I don't mind like standing at a market all day for 12 hours in the rain, etc. That doesn't bother me in the slightest, man. But I just didn't see the lockdown thing coming. The situation we've had to deal with this year. Like, I've really had to pivot the way we run the business. Like, I was trying to sit and think and get into the mind of my ideal customer. So the first few days, I was sharing recipes, how to make naan without yeast and things like that. Just trying to bring as much value as possible through the content. And
but this was content from home.
Yeah, content
Whenever,
from home.
but this is what I find interesting is that when there's a major market shock like
Yeah,
COVID,
yeah.
it almost resets everyone.
Hmm.
So it's from scratch. You had to figure out, okay, well, how am I going to learn, promote, do whatever? So it's brilliant I can't wait to hear what you're going to say, just because people that aren't as entrepreneurial as you are might just sit and complain. So I think
Yeah,
it's
that's it. Like,
really
I
important.
totally agree. Like, you've just got to adapt, haven't you? Like, one of the things I started doing, I noticed that I was using every other social media platform, but I was only scratching the surface with TikTok. And I'm looking at people with thousands of followers, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to give this a little go. I don't care about like the people have a certain idea of apps, don't they? Like
Mhm.
when TikTok came out, people say, oh, it's just for kids dancing and that. But if you search for hashtags relevant to your industry, you will find really good content on there as well. So I just started using the TikTok app as the tool to string little mini clips of video together. And then the penny dropped. I thought I could make recipe videos with this. So I got a tripod, pretty cheap off Amazon, placed my camera above my pan, and just filmed little mini clips of, you put this in, you put that in, you put that in. This is what you end up with. Sharing that on YouTube and sharing it on Pinterest. Like sometimes I think Pinterest is such I've mentioned it a few times now. It's an underappreciated app. Like I'll post a recipe video on there, and then I'll forget about it because I'm busy doing other stuff. And I'll go back on my Pinterest page a few weeks later and think, oh, I'll have a look how that video did. And it might have got like 50,000 views. And I'm like, wow, man.
Wow.
I know, man. Like I haven't even spent a penny on ads or anything like that. I've literally just made a recipe in my kitchen and then shared it, and then 50,000 sets of eyes have seen it. And I'm just like, wow, man, like the opportunity we have in our phones is
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Because you said exactly the same thing the first time we met in Middlesbrough next to the stadium having coffee. And it
All
was,
right.
no, you did. You said exactly the same thing because you were quoting Gary Vee. And
Okay.
it was because at the time we were talking about social media and actually
Mhm.
how important it is because it is scary to put yourself out there and you
Yeah,
risk
man.
judgment and stuff. But
Yeah.
actually, so I do LinkedIn and Twitter are my main
Yeah.
two, and
Okay.
Instagram. But
Yeah.
realistically for me, LinkedIn is the main one. I dabble at Facebook a little bit just because it automatically feeds through from Instagram. But
Yeah.
I never actually tried TikTok or the others just because it's not really me.
Yeah, of course.
It's not necessarily a bit, a business kind of audience, but actually Pinterest I'm interested in. And this is why
Yeah.
it's really good feedback because I have ideas in my head about what I want to do next year. And it's
Yeah.
almost at the point where for my own business structure, I almost as a challenge want to see how big a business I can grow when it's just me
Yeah.
because it's all about minimizing overheads
Of
and
course it is.
everything that goes
Yeah.
with it because that's where your profit comes from.
Of
And
course.
actually, but it's how now that I've got some cash to reinvest in stuff. Like one of the things that I reinvested in this year was the iMac to really up my
Yeah.
streaming game, just because my
Yeah.
old 4-year-old laptop just couldn't handle this. It was just too much. It was going crazy.
I get that.
But actually,
What?
with next year, I think investing for someone else to run my social media, I
Yeah.
think could be a real game changer for me.
Yeah, just because it obviously, like if somebody's blasting out that content for you and you could make this video now, and then if you had somebody else who was editing it and stripping it down to like little 20-second snippets or whatever,
Mhm.
and then sharing them, like that's just more eyes that are going to be aware of what you're doing, isn't it?
I'm
So
with you.
it sounds like a natural piece of growth, really, that.
Did this year go as I expected? Okay, I didn't expect a global pandemic, but actually, yes, it did. It went better than I expected.
Cool.
And actually, it was the chance. I think I benefited from COVID because the ability to pivot and changed the whole way I was looking at everything.
Yeah.
And I've been able to execute it. And what everyone else has seen so far is probably 30% of what I'm aiming to do. So I think when we do this chat next year,
Yeah.
hopefully touch some wood and I could just crash and burn. I want to really accelerate, and this is quite exciting for me. So I'll be interested to go. But actually, in terms of everything else, yeah, probably kind of as expected. Okay, what happened that you didn't expect? Was there anything this year that basically just hit you sideways? I know your car was broken into, so was mine.
I know, man. I know. Yeah, there was that. That was a bit of a low point. Like, there's been a few things like not being able to travel because, like, when I first started the business, I flew to Morocco. I made my video in Rabat, and then what I wanted to do in 2020 was make another 2 episodes of Searching for Spices, which was
Because I wanted to come with you.
I know, man. Do you know what I mean? We'll go somewhere, but yeah, not being able to travel was a spanner in the works for me. We had a trip to Beirut ready to go. We had a food, but I know it's meant a minute. We had a food blogger out there who was going to show us around. We had a route planned out. I had the situations pretty much storyboarded. My bags were packed, man. I was ready to go, and then obviously the first lockdown happened, and then obviously the thing happened at the port in Lebanon, and that obviously put me off going. So I think that's a real missed opportunity, but I just didn't see that coming. And there was one thing I really didn't anticipate, actually, that was going to have a moderate effect on our business. When I was doing the markets and stuff, I didn't expect the weather to be such a factor, and I should have thought about that really. But our bags of spices, basically they become airborne whenever the wind is above 25 miles an hour. So I've seen me chasing bags of saffron down Stockton High Street. I was doing Redcar Market. It was about just after the first lockdown, before the second one. And there was a sudden gust of wind, and literally every single product I had on that under that gazebo went, man. Like, I was running up Redcar High Street, literally trying to. I lost half my stock. Somebody must have enjoyed it. But yeah, I didn't expect the wind. Rain I can handle. My skin's waterproof. I'm Teessider. It's all good. But yeah, wind's a nightmare.
Interesting.
Didn't see that coming.
No, it's a really good chat. And actually, I really miss travel as well. Can I throw something else out there? Because
Go for it, man.
Ironically, that I really do genuinely. Some people write a journal or a diary. I use YouTube. I talk to people and I just save this, and then however long I live for, I'll look back at some point. But
it'd be fascinating.
But I always love traveling, and ironically that when I used to, you flick through the in-flight magazines, especially if you're on like a business trip, so you're traveling somewhere with work. It's for me, it's got a different twinge to when you're on holiday.
Yeah, it's got a different. Yeah.
And basically, I remember I used to flick through the in-flight magazine, and at the time, ironically, that I'm now writing one, as in the actual course, but I always wanted to do an MBA, and I always had it at the back of my head: should I do it? Should I not do it? What value would it bring, etc. So one day, if I ever have an advert in an in-flight magazine, if flights are even still around for my business course, that is a dream achieved.
That'd be awesome.
So I could sit on a flight to go to anywhere, flick through, and it's my stuff.
Yeah, that'd be unreal. Like,
it's
everybody has their own ambitions, don't they? Like, there's some things that, like, I know a lot of people, they're kind of, their ambitions are just based on what they've been told to strive to. So like, people might think, right, I need to buy a house, even at all costs. I won't do any traveling. I won't go to any parties. I won't do anything. I'm just going to solely focus on that. But some people are really miserable doing that. And I think, man, like, that's not good, man. You just got to work out what you actually want to do. Do you know what I mean? Like, seeing our spices on the shelf of a retailer, unbelievable. Do you know what I mean? It's a career high for me. Like, I was absolutely buzzing. I couldn't get the grin off my face for days. Like, and everyone should work out what makes them like truly happy and strive towards it, man. Definitely.
No, it's class. Again, I think halfway through the year, maybe even slightly past that, I think my motivation has changed, but it's like I don't buy posh things for anyone else. I do it for myself. But ironically, I don't really spend any money. I'll save up and then buy something anyway. And it got to the point, and there's something that my wife knows, and my mum knows, and nobody else does. And it was a conversation we had, and it was probably about 4 or 5 months ago. And I was saying, look, do I keep my car? So I had quite a nice Mercedes. Before that, I had a Porsche Cayman, and I've always enjoyed it. And it wasn't to show off; it was just because, as the kid growing up, for me, that was like a massive goal that I never thought I'd achieve, and when I did, etc. But
I used to be a massive petrolhead myself, Steve. So I get that.
I remember our first interview. But what I was going to say is that, ironically, we still have another car. We have a Kia, which is now what I drive every day. But just dropping my monthly expenditure, because me and my wife split all the bills, from say 1,500-1,600 quid a month to like 900.
Such a smart move, man. I would have gone bust 100%. If I didn't do what you're talking about, had a real review of my outgoings, I would not have survived this year. No chance.
But I think it's almost because when you get to know yourself more, for me, ironically, rightly or wrongly, I want people to think I'm good. You know what I mean? Reputation's it's an important thing.
Probably. Of course, it's like, you can't turn up to an engineering company on a BMX with your hood up. You know what I mean? You have to be in business mode, don't you? Like, it's perception, isn't it?
But it's that kind of thing. But it was balanced on when I considered it under the first lockdown, then we were kind of set free. And then when I could see that we were probably going to go into lockdown too, my challenge was that I wanted to sell it before we got properly locked down, because the number of buyers for really expensive German cars would probably drop off. And likewise, it's much better to have the money in the bank than it is to have an asset that you can't really do anything with. But just as a business owner, it was that conscious decision. And ironically, I had beans on toast for lunch. That's just chance. But actually, everything I'm now trying to do is to build the dream. And actually, I'm really proud of that, because I said the first time we met is that I would prefer to try and fail, but do everything I could, than kind of half-arse it or do things for other people.
Man. Without a doubt, I couldn't agree more on that. Yeah.
But I guess you said that so you almost found the same, that actually, so going into business, you really looked at your overheads just to kind of.
I really did. Like that before we launched, I was writing the food blog for about a year, and I was just literally looking at like anything on I was skimming through my bank statements and just thinking, right, that's pointless, that stops. And just like the amount of I love festivals and music, man. I work hard, but I play hard. You know what I mean? But like that, in the last 2 years, I haven't really done many concerts or many festivals because I've had to make a few sacrifices for the business. And maybe if now I realize how much I miss concerts because we can't go to them anymore. So when they come back, I'm going to go on some mad weekends. Like, I'm looking forward, but we just got to make the best of these times, man. Like, I've never spent so much time with my family, so that's an absolute plus,
Class. Next question. What was the best part of the year?
There's been a couple of proper high points, man. Like, getting sales in other countries was blowing my mind to shreds.
I'm yet to do that.
I was buzzing, man. Honestly, can you remember when England played Scotland and Paul Gascoigne done that celebration? That's when I was like, man, I was running around the house. That's the one. I was bouncing off the walls. Like we in the first few months, like we got a sale in Washington, and we had a couple in Missouri and Arkansas. We had a couple of sales in Greece. We had one in France, one in Sweden, and that's just from writing about food, using the relevant hashtags on Instagram, and just constantly putting the content out. And like when I seen it flash through when we get a sale through the website, I get an email notification. I say to my missus, "Look at that, man! Somebody in Washington's bought like 30 odd quid worth of spices." And that's just blew my mind to bits. I love e-commerce. Like, it's just, I'm sat chilling on a night and like it's blasting through to my email, and I'm just like, yes,
I love it, because my first phase of my business, it was, and this is almost quite funny, I was thinking this through, is that I always wanted when I first launched on my website, I drew a graph, and it was how to tell everyone up front, this is how my business is going to run. The baseline is going to be consultancy stuff where I live and breathe and I do this all day, every day. And I do it and I love it. Then I was going to start investing in companies that are scalable, tech companies. And luckily I was approached because of this, via LinkedIn, from a guy called Ajuro in Nigeria. And I'm now on the board of the Ojimi, which is a tech e-commerce platform, which we're working on. Really exciting. And at some point I'll get them on. But that came from doing this. And then likewise, I also drew how training and education, scalable, real world stuff, I wanted to launch into kind of 2021. And then I was trying to think this through, is almost where I plan the business model, but I rarely kind of put it out there. Some people say about the whole visualization thing, and I'm not someone, I don't sit and imagine what the life's going to be like, but it was what I wanted to do, and I put it out there. And then whether that's just by chance, it kind of started to come off. But I don't know if you ever kind of do that.
I think like it's interesting. Oh, by the way, if you've got a contact in Nigeria, put him on to me. I want to chat to him. I wouldn't mind going to Nigeria. I mean, it looks bonkers. Quick story. My friend Rupert Summerfield's a really good guy I used to work with at TTE. He went to Nigeria and stayed in a questionable hotel, and it had bomb damage, obviously. And during the night, he woke up and there was a gap at the side of his door and there was just an eye watching him. So he said it was a pretty interesting place. But yeah, I wouldn't mind going there. But like if you're doing what you want to do every single day, then you've already won, really. As long as the bills are paid, like I can literally go through the day and I'll just be doing what I want. Like I'm literally doing what I've always wanted to do, just working on my own terms. I've got nobody saying like, Peter, you haven't hit your KPIs, which happened a fair bit in my career. I like to do my own thing. I think going back to like high points as well, I've already touched upon it, but seeing the products on the shelves was a massive bonus. Like
That's
the
class.
first couple happened about 3 days apart as well. So Smith's Butchers at Acklam Shops and Powell's in Stokesley, within the from going to having no commercial clients to in a few days, I ended up like having the spices on both of their shelves. And then Stonygate Farm in Richmond put in a big order as well. So I was just thinking, man, like my products are in a few really respectable businesses that I have a massive respect for. And then a couple of months after that, I started getting more like towards the catering side of things. And I read a post yesterday that really resonated with me. So I think like with independent businesses, and I know I run one, but I genuinely believe this, when you're supporting people like Sticky Fingers on Linthorpe Road, or places like The Chairman, or like Benny's Diner, Deja Food Truck, all these are like, I know them business owners, and they're people with a vision, and they have a unique business. And if we don't really support those kind of businesses, then what we're going to find is every town loses its character, because it's just going to be Wetherspoons and Greggs and all the chain places. And like, I think when you're supporting an independent business as well, it's like a boost. It's like a turbocharge to the economy. It's like if somebody buys something off a small sandwich shop, like they're spending that in the area, and it stays in the area. Do you know what I mean?
Okay. I now feel guilty. Next time we won't go to Costa. We'll go to Emily Bentley's. We'll go to Bentley's at one of her many coffee shops now.
See, I didn't realise that a year ago, though. Like, my perception's massively changed. Like, since I've got to know a lot of these business on a personal level, and I see them running through brick walls to bring something different to the table, I've learned so much from dealing with these kind of businesses over the course of this first year. So that's like, my mindset on that whole thing has completely changed now. You know what I mean?
I must have, what was interesting. So the business owner one of them that I work with, I was just bouncing some ideas off her yesterday, and it's funny that there's always so much value that you can get from tiny little things that people say. But almost what I find interesting is that if you take my business up to now, which is mostly consultancy, I don't class that as a proper business. Yes, there's still a lot of stuff involved, but it's not quite the same of buying stock, designing a product, building the product, shipping it, hoping people buy it, innovate, and then scaling. When you work out your cost of customer acquisition and actually how many can you send out for the price that you'll get paid, and just really scale. And that for me is almost running what I class a business like you do. And I want to. But the thing that I find interesting is that I think any business owner worth their salt, regardless of what you do, respects that kind of craft. And it's not that I don't respect people that do consultancy stuff, because that's what I do, and I will always do that because I love doing it.
Yeah.
But almost if you can ever package something up and sell that at scale, it's next level. And that, that's almost why I'm quite excited to go on the next phase of my journey, just because it's a different learning curve.
Yeah. I think people's personality shines through the business, doesn't it?
I think so.
And it's apparent in their products and stuff like that, and in their service and what they provide,
Okay, so we've done best part of the year. How did you adapt over the year? And this can be to do with any part of your business. And I'll jump in first if you want, just because for me, I think for me, it was the scale. So pre-lockdown, and again, kind of April, so about 6 months in, the business model base level was, you hire me, I come in for a day, I'll help you grow your business, I leave, I go and do it with someone else. That's kind of what it was.
Yeah. Okay.
When lockdown happened and I couldn't do that in person on a Monday every day for whoever, it took 8 hours a day to 8 hours a week, and I just support as and when. That's actually a lot more flexible for the business owner, but actually it allows me to slot in different things. But the real thing for me was this. It was to actually try and go online, find something that because I love talking to people. It's one of my things, but actually I'm hopefully quite good at it, but I enjoy it. And it's regular content. So once a week I'll talk to people, I'll recycle it, I'll use it on Sundays. I've
been enjoying it, man.
Oh, cool. And actually, to be fair, I get quite a few messages where I purposely wanted to focus on real people that run real businesses that a lot of people can relate to, not just, the big boys. That being said, touch some wood, unless he says no, but I'm hopefully going to speak to Bill Scott before Christmas.
Oh, spot on.
So
I remember going to an event in Liverpool a few years ago, an engineering one, and I knew he was obviously, but I'd never sat and listened to him. And he done a talk, and like even though he's got a Teesside accent like me, and even though he's so softly spoken, I was absolutely gripped by what he was saying. He's just got a way of, I don't know, like hooking a crowd in. Like I was hooked and think within 30 seconds, I was like, this guy, man, you know what I mean?
yeah, 100%. But it's almost, and no offense to you or anyone else that I spoke to, but I wanted to practice before I approach proper business people.
Oh yeah.
Just because I just thought it was important because I didn't want to mess it up.
You know what? But how many years has Wilton Engineering been going, man? I've been on into their site. I used to talk to them about training and stuff, and like to speak. I'm only in my first year, but to look to people like Bill who've been running businesses for decades. Let's not forget, he didn't have Google. He didn't have the internet. He had the bloody Yellow Pages. You know what I mean? So I'll be fascinated to watch that one.
No, major respect. Okay, how do you use up over the year? We've done that one. As a person, how do you feel you've developed over the year?
Okay, so I think like one of the main areas I've wanted to develop is the production of video and the production of content. So I've been on a night when everybody goes to bed, I'm consuming just hundreds of hours of like food blogs and travel vlogs and watching people like Anthony Bourdain or watching people, I love Anthony Bourdain, watching people like Somebody Feed Phil on Netflix, just like people who are abroad and they're looking for food and they obviously they have a big production budget. So I'm just sat taking notes all the time about camera angles and about just how to structure a proper vlog so that the next time when hopefully travel returns soon, I can go out there and I can make a really special video the next time that I, travel abroad and have another crack at that.
No, class. I think for me, it's just lots of little things. And what's always quite funny is that I think there was 2 or 3 times within the year when I felt I'd leveled up, to use a computer game term. And actually, it was funny. But even like, for instance, the other day, I spoke to a lady who got in touch and she runs a business based near Sunderland. We'd seen each other around on LinkedIn, but we didn't know each other. And she just reached out for us to have a quick chat.
Yeah.
And actually I asked her a lot of questions as I do. It was all completely free. And it was just within 20 minutes, I'd added value that hopefully will make a real difference to her business moving forward.
Yeah.
And it was just real common sense advice of different things. But what was interesting was that I was sending it to the sales pipeline tracker on my website, the video blog of how to use it, etc. But when I was on the website, when I was on the Zoom call talking to her, I couldn't find it. That evening, I put a search function on my website.
Yeah.
And it's all these little things just add
just
up
step by step development.
Yeah. And then even last night on YouTube, because I watch YouTube every day, it was looking at, I don't even know how I discovered it. It was basically a guide that reviews web design projects and what the website looked like before and after this person had worked their magic, what they'd done to it, how they'd done the call to action, the layout, the simplicity, whatever. And that's going to be one of my next projects, is actually how do I take that and do it and tweak it?
Yeah.
And I think for me, over a year, you just gradually just add in all these little things and it just gradually cranks up.
Yeah, man, step by step, just constantly improving and like every day you'll find a quicker way to do something or a better way to do something, Yeah,
cool. If you were to redo this year again, so what would you do differently?
I wouldn't do a thing differently, Steve. Not one thing. Do you know what? Any of the little mistakes I made, I learned from them. So, like, there was certain markets that, for an example, I did a market at Birmingham because I was trying every single market on the circuit, every farmer's market. I'll do them 2 or 3 times and suss it out, see if it's right for us. And I did Birmingham, and I knew as soon as I got there, I thought I'm in a bit of a dark corner of the market here, and it was a poor day. Do you know what I mean? It was definitely not worth it. But I'd still, if I could go back in time, I'd still do it because I know now not to do that one. Do you know what I mean? It just took. I wouldn't change a thing, genuinely.
I'm trying to think. For me, it's funny. I don't think I would either. I was gonna say I wouldn't leave my camera equipment in my car to get broken into and stolen, but ironically.
All right, yeah, I agree. I wouldn't have left my stock in my car that day. There is that.
But the funny thing is that so one of my previous guests is the lovely lady called Helena runs life saving training in Newcastle. And I actually met her the morning I'd come down. It was a Northeast Times event. And I'd come down to my car at like 7:30, and I saw that it was ajar, and my heart just sank. Rang the police, but I knew there was nothing I could do. So I went into town, went to this event, and I was miserable because I'd lost thousands of pounds worth of stuff.
Yeah.
And when you meet people at an event and you're just unhappy and sad, that's like break my heart. But actually, when I since got to meet up with Helena and talk about her business and stuff separately, you kind of, I think sometimes, again, when the bad things happen, you learn from it and you adapt. So even then it was horrible. It cost me $2,000 or whatever. Maybe that, but nothing else.
I didn't even ring the police, to be honest, because, like, to be fair, I don't know what they're like in your area, but anytime that anything like that happens, you ring them, and Cleveland police will come around 2 weeks later and go, "Oh yeah, you've been burgled." I'm like, "I know, mate. I know it happened 2 weeks ago." So I didn't even ring them. I think, like, I was already battle hardened to that element of life. I grew up in Pallister Park, and when we were kids, the odd time, we got burgled, but it's just, part of life, innit? Like, if you grow up in a kind of a northeast a town that's a bit rough around the edges, these things are going to happen now and again. You just don't let it destroy you.
I'm with you. I'm good.
It's quite invasive, but it's happened, and just move on.
All right, next question. What are you excited about for year 2?
I think, like, I'm really looking forward to getting back on them farmers markets, because when I'm dealing with people, different people from all different backgrounds, and we're chatting about food and stuff, and honestly, the time flies. It's so enjoyable just to be stood just at brainstorming about food and stuff like that. So I'm massively looking forward to that. I'm just really looking forward to getting back out there, traveling, man, and making some more content abroad. Well, what I did do this year, there was a slight gap in the year. I think it was around August. It was before, after the first lockdown, before the second one. And there was a small window of opportunity to travel. So me and some friends, I'd done it on the pretense of making a video, but it was to go to Amsterdam, to be honest with you. We drove from Borough down to the Channel Tunnel, and then through France, through Belgium. We got to the dam, and I was like, yes. So we, that was a high point.
You didn't go away with the wife and kids, or the girlfriend and kids.
Oh, no.
You went to Amsterdam with your mate.
Yeah, so what I did is, like, I made a top 5 street food vlog when I was there. So I made a vlog out there. So I didn't get into trouble, but now she's going to watch this now, and she's going to give me some abuse.
Well, I'll be honest, my wife, I love her. She works really hard, but she never watches my stuff.
Oh, okay.
So I'm fine with it. It is what it is.
That's a good point. My missus gets enough of me at home anyway, so she probably won't watch it. So, but yeah, you know what? I love the food in Amsterdam. Like, when I was out there. On a more serious note, when I'm out there and I'm traveling around different countries, and I'm making films about the food they eat and about the culture and about the different elements of their country, especially when it's the Netherlands and it's a country that I love so much. It's probably my favorite city in the world, and I've been all over the world, you know what I mean? But I just love that place so much. So I think next year, the thing I'm most looking forward to, I'm hoping travel returns to some state of normality, and I'm just really looking forward to making a video and giving our audience that we've built over this last year or two of writing the blog, giving them an insight into a mad country. Like, I'd love to go to India and go exploring and film it and make a really good film out there. So, but I might change my mind, or I might go to Egypt or wherever. We'll see what happens at the time, see how I feel. I would like to go back to Morocco, because Mohammed owes me a Moroccan palmo, doesn't he? So I still talk to Mohammed all the time. So that's a possibility. So I think I'm just looking forward to it developing as a company, improving, at the end of the day, improving sales by doing more markets and by boosting our online presence and getting more commercial clients, but also becoming more interesting by making more videos abroad. So I'm just really psyched for the future, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Sweet. I missed it. For me, year 2 will be the year that I really, hopefully, accelerate. It's when the thing I've been working on, I've put my heart and soul into it, and I've been working on it for months. It makes a PhD thesis look like nothing. Honestly, it's a big piece of work, and shout out to Chris Nutman that helped me with a lot of the design stuff. But I'm at the point where, of the 216 pages, I've got a few little tweaks, but it's almost done. But I'm just really proud of it, and I can't wait to kind of share it. And then for year 2, it's how I want my focus is and always will be northeast of England as my minimum addressable market. There's 42,000 businesses here, Brilliant. That's what I'm going to focus on and go at. But I'm just going to say a UK wide kind of year 2. And then for me, year 3 is when I would then want to take that internationally. And it's just, I want to, it's building the dream, and I can see it. And I know the people at Department of International Trade that I'm going to speak to and how I'm going to translate it, and just really, but it's, walk before you can run, and try and get it to work.
That's it. Yeah. You've just got to build it up. Manuel from the Department of International Trade is a top guy, by the way.
I feel like you're making these names up.
Manuel, he's a geezer. Honestly, he's a really, really top fella. He's really knowledgeable. I've met him a couple of times. I'd have to put you into him. Manuel Fountain, he's a really good guy.
Good stuff. Cool. Okay, so if you were to, because we're starting to wrap up, I'm very conscious of time, and I can see behind me it's gone dark, but it is December. So anyway.
The cavalry will be home in 5 minutes anyway. You leave them all burst in.
Oh, it'd be a nice end to the video anyway.
Yeah, okay. I think.
So if you were to give advice to yourself exactly a year ago, or equivalent, if you were to give advice to someone that's just starting out, what would it be?
Okay, so I think like if I was giving advice to somebody else who's starting a business, I'd say watch your outgoings, like have a real audit of your outgoings, because and you want to get used to not really paying yourself much.
And you mean personal outgoings, not just business? Although it's true about.
I mean, it's true for both, but personal outgoings, you can waste so much money. When I never realised how much money I used to waste. I would regularly go watch Borough play. I'm missing live football games. I would regularly go watch Borough, and the amount of money I would blast would be shocking, really, when I rack it up over the year. So just reining it in, it doesn't mean you have to live like a monk. You know what I mean? You can still have a good time, etc., and catch up friends and family when we're allowed to. But I think just those outgoings, because it's been a major influence in us being able to stay in business, really, and it's really helped us develop. So I would just say, just be really frugal and just be really thoughtful of every penny that you spend, especially in those first few years.
No, I think it's cool. I think for me, it's almost where it's talk to lots of people, really put yourself out there, but be very conscious of the time vampires that will suck your time away. They might be well-intentioned. They might want to just talk all the time, or maybe their business isn't quite doing as well as they hope, so that's just how they fill their time. But just being brutally savage with your time is massively important, just because as an entrepreneur, that's the only thing you've got. And the one thing that almost gets me is that every single day, it almost is what keeps me awake at night, but every single day before I leave, I think, are my customers happy? And have I turned off my Outlook, which I forget? That's what the bing is. You probably can't hear it, but I can, so I apologize to any listeners. But it's the learning curve. But it's almost, so being very conscious of your time. And then I think to myself, are my customers happy? Because if they're happy, I don't mind if my personal project takes an extra day longer, because they're arguably funding it. But almost that's a big learning curve for me. That almost would be a big change for this year. So before we wrap up and your kids turn up and anything else, is there anything you want to talk about or plug before we go?
No, not really. Do you know what, Steve? I think we've covered a lot of good stuff. I think one of the things I haven't mentioned that I think is really underrated is connecting with people on Instagram who kind of influencer marketing is what you would label it. But on a more human level, I think with myself during those lockdowns, I focused a lot of time into Instagram and just interacting with there's people who I didn't even know existed who live 2 minutes away from my house who are food bloggers with thousands of followers, and just connecting with them and bouncing ideas around about food and plugging each other's businesses and stuff like that. There's too many bloggers to mention, and I don't want to offend anyone and leave them out. So what I would say is if you go onto the Diablo Seasonings Instagram page and you have a look at the other food bloggers who interact with us constantly, some of the content they're putting out is epic. It's a pleasure to scroll through my Instagram feed when I'm seeing some of the food that these people are developing,
No, I think very cool. And I think that falls into, because up until now, I sell a very low quantity product. So there's no, since I kind of got sold out in virtually April, where my time was just spent. Yeah. That actually I stopped doing sales promotion because I had nothing more to sell. I was, but actually now that's changed. That's a really good shout for actually how. So I watched the video on YouTube the other day, and it was a guy who, the tagline which got me in was, I spent $50,000 on business courses. This is what I learned, and I was in. And he goes through and he talks about how one of them was free, one was 20 quid, and it ramps up and he talks about them. And the really expensive one, just to give the spoiler away, was to do university courses.
Yeah.
But actually, it got me thinking, well, actually, when it's done, I'm going to send him mine. And it was just, I think that completely listening to what you're saying is really kind of interacting with other people and getting them to share your content. And that's something I still get a buzz about, is that it's all the little milestones. So when someone else, kind of retweets one of my videos, I love it. It's just, it's a next level up that never originally happened.
Even every extra subscriber that you get on the YouTube channel, like when you know that somebody's watched your video, they're enjoying it, so they've clicked subscribe, even without you saying, please click subscribe, and they do it anyway. And you just sat at home, if it comes through on a night and you think, yeah, quality.
I don't get many, I'll be honest.
I know. Do you know what? Like, it's took me probably 18 months to 2 years of sharing videos to only get just over 100. But I'm confident that one day my YouTube channel will catch fire. I mean, I haven't got enough videos out there. You've got loads of videos on there now, haven't you?
Yeah, a few. Well, it's because I'm going to turn this into 10 separate videos.
This is it. That's the way to do it, man.
But shout out. So I think I'm currently on 62. So when we do
quality.
When we do this next year, hopefully it's at least 100.
I think you've just got to be really grateful for every single human being who follows 100%. Your content. Like when I on my Twitter page, for example, it's one of my weakest social media pages. Probably only 160 people on there in comparison to the thousands on the Instagram and Facebook. But each and every person on Twitter who follows my page, who likes my stuff and that, I'm really grateful for them, man. That's another human who watches what you're doing and they think like they appreciate what you're trying to bring to the table. So just thank you to everyone who follows Diablo Seasonings on any platform. I just massively appreciate it.
Cool. Well, that takes us to 51 minutes. It's been a genuine pleasure to catch up, and I've finished my coffee. But again, I love the fact it's just that I will look back on this if I'm still alive in a year's time or 5 years' time, and it'll be really interesting to
fascinating.
Yeah, I think
absolutely fascinating.
So cool. Well, I appreciate your time. Anyone that did watch, thank you. I appreciate you as well. And just on this topic, because I'll forget otherwise. When I actually started to do the podcast, which is where I repurposed this, I take the audio out and then upload it via a website called anchor.com, which is, so it's how you then turn it into like a podcast. It was realistically in the past month, when maybe a bit longer, I've now started to get approached from people all around the world, and they blatantly just want to plug their stuff, which is fine. But the point is people are seeing it, and they all have their own networks. And it's just, so you'll probably see me pepper out between people in the northeast of England or people that I know and bigger international guests, because I want to get exposed to their audience. But it's the point of, it shows that what you're doing is working, because people are reaching out to you. And also to anyone that ever wants to start their own thing, just do it. It will pay off. Cool. Well, I think we'll call it quits there. Thank you again. Stay in touch.
Steve, always is.
I always love seeing you.
If you get any clients in Las Vegas, sort out a trip or something.
But I think, honestly, I can't, because this is the other thing that I love about having a business, is that you can blag stuff like business trips to Vegas or New York or wherever for free, because it's tax deductible. Yeah. So that's the dream when we're allowed out again, because I miss being on a plane. And actually, truth be told, now that I've thrown out that truth bomb about if I ever get an advert in an in-flight magazine, that's the dream. That's the dream.
It's going to happen, man.
All right, cool. Well, cheers, mate. Thanks for staying in touch.
Take care of yourself, Steve.
And see you soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.